Tennessee assigned athletic director Danny White to a new rolling 6-year contract, paying him $2.2 million. White is believed to be the highest paid SEC AD and top 8 nationally. He's overseen the department that's won 6 SEC titles in 2 years and had record fundraising in 2021, 2022. So whose salary is more appropriate? 2.2 for Danny White or 9 million for Josh Heupel? And your thoughts on this rolling contract that Danny White has received?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to go 2.2 for Danny White and say Danny White should be paid higher. Not that I don't think Josh Heupel's a great coach. I think Danny White's less replaceable. I think Danny White is the best athletic director in the country, bar none. I think Tennessee hit a home run with Danny White and the hire of Danny White. Guys, you're going to see this in the future. I'm telling you, I said it yesterday. UCF, within 10 years, will be playing for a national championship because of what Danny White did there. And I think that they are an ahead of the curve athletics program. And you saw what he did at Buffalo. He's the best hirer. Is that a word? He's the best.
Staffing agency.
Yes. He's the best at hiring in all of college athletics. Guys, look at his hires. They're insane. They've all worked out. Every single one of them. And even if they haven't worked out at other places, they've worked out when Danny White's hired them, i.e. Scott Frost. And I'm just saying Danny White knows the fit. I said it was a home run when Tennessee hired him. I didn't say it was a home run when he hired Josh Heupel. But that was a home run. Turned out to be a massive home run. But I've always been high on Danny White. I didn't even think he was in the running for athletic director in 2 years ago. I thought they should have gotten the guy I wanted at the time, or that I thought was best. What's his name, Dave? The one from Chattanooga back in the day, Dave Blackburn. Is that his name?
Yes, David Blackburn, who is now at MTSU.
Yes, I thought he was the best candidate. I didn't even think Danny White was on the radar, and they got him. And that's just, I'm telling you guys, for as long as Tennessee has Danny White, Tennessee is in great shape. That dude is an amazing athletic director. And I mean, he is the best in the business, the most forward-thinking in the business right now.
I thought David Blackburn would get it too at the time. I didn't really know who Danny White was, and I thought for a second they hired the Cowboys quarterback from the early 1980s. That's a different Danny White. I think in this, if I just look at it from the outside looking in, I think that just based off a business model, if $2.2 million is what the market bears for Danny White, then the market's not quite right, because Danny White is able to make a non-revenue sport like baseball at least exciting and probably maybe close to breaking even. I would think. I don't know. I haven't seen the numbers. The budget will come out, but after what they did, the budget comes out in the summer, the review budget. But I would, that's exciting, and that was nothing for a long time. You're smart enough to keep Rick Barnes. Some of the other hires that he has made have been fantastic. So, it's 2.2 for a Danny White is an absolute deal. And, coincidentally, I was working on another project. So these are the hires he's made. Danny White has hired Josh Heupel, of course. He's hired Diana Cantu, women's golf. That was June the 8th, 2021. Soccer, Joe Kurt. That was in April of 2022. Track and field, Dwayne Ross, May 24th, 2022. And cross country, Sean Carlson, June of 2022. So a lot of these guys and gals are still early, and it's a little bit early to judge them. But if you can have somebody head up an athletic department with that many moving parts, and it's $2.2 million. I've been obsessed recently with the crash of 2008, the real estate crash. And those guys that were heading up, that were CEOs of mega companies, much like an athletic department is nowadays in the SEC, were making 40 and 50 million, Caleb. And I know it's all according to scale and where you slot on an itemized budget. But the bottom line is you get that type of production for $2.2 million, kick him up to 3. I mean, to me, it's the steal of a century.
I agree. It's we're underrating how much athletic directors have, how much of a role they have, not just in the hires, but in the success the program has.
Navigating NIL too.
Oh, that's huge. You're right. I mean, Dave, how often is a coach a average to above average coach maybe, but has a run of success because they had a great administrative support behind them? You said you told me yourself that in the 90s, Fulmer's like legacy of recruiting, that was because Tennessee was ahead of the curve in recruiting, wasn't it? The administration had recruiting tactics that were ahead of the rest of the SEC at the time that allowed them to go national.
They scheduled at a higher level. They had those preseason games, if you remember those. They played Colorado one year. They were on TV a lot, and that wasn't just an SEC thing. That was Tennessee getting themselves on TV. Their facilities were ahead. So, yes, no, I think and on the flip side of that, we're talking about Doug Dickey at the time. Doug Dickey didn't give two you-know-whats about basketball, and it showed. So, yes, I mean, I think it proves our point doubly in that $2.2 million for a guy that can head up everything and provide your football program with exactly what it needs to be at an elite level. What more do you want? I mean, I didn't think about him being best in the nation, but you said that, and he's paid accordingly. So he's thought to be top 8 nationally and top in the SEC. I got zero problem with that. Does anybody remember January 2021 when he was hired? That was bad news, Caleb. There was nothing good going on then.
Nothing. And I said though, and this when Tennessee hired Danny White, I thought they basically made the program saving move hiring him. You had to make a splash for athletic director, because let's look at their previous hires. Mike Hamilton was the AD in waiting, right, from Doug Dickey. He was the guy that he was going to take over for Doug Dickey, and Mike Hamilton made one good hire in Bruce Pearl. Every hire after that was a total disaster, to the point where you've talked about it. He didn't really even have control in the Derek Dooley hire, did he? And
who?
Mike Hamilton.
No. I think that was I can remember where I was on a Friday afternoon when I was told he got the job, and they still had yet to interview. Oh, forgive me, I can't remember his name. He was an assistant on
Kippy Brown.
Yeah, Kippy Brown. And I spoke to somebody in Kippy Brown's family, and I said, "Well, are you upset?" And they said, "No, everything's good. We're getting ready to do the interview. You still got a shot." And I was like, "No, he doesn't."
Yeah, that was
horrible. Yeah. And it was basically taken out of Mike Hamilton's hands in the course of about 12 hours. And when it was done, it was done. And he knew that if he couldn't make decisions like that, he might as well eventually go, and he did.
Well, and this is why I've defended, and at least they're letting Danny White run the show, but this is why, as I've gotten older, I've defended Johnny Majors in the past for his public war words with the boosters at Tennessee. Tennessee's got some really incompetent boosters, and it's almost like Game of Thrones and a power struggle between the boosters who want control of the program. I mean, let's not even get started on the way the Haslams have just completely, have had the program in the thumb of their hand, and look at how Jimmy runs the Cleveland Browns. But
I like Big Jim's role back in the 80s and 90s. He just kind of wrote the checks and let things go. I think it's good that Jimmy Haslam has the Browns so that he stays away from Tennessee.
Oh, I agree. And we don't even need to get into Jimmy Haslam's own issues running his own business that his dad created for him to run that got in a lot of trouble until Warren Buffett saved him.
Yeah, I mean, other than ripping off minority convenience store owners, he was a great guy.
Yeah.
Other than that, he was a fantastic individual. I can tell you that I listened to those tapes, those FBI tapes, and there were some people, one of which may have been a daughter of a former Tennessee basketball coach, but there were some people skimming 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 was the top one. They were skimming that a month off of the rebates. A month. God. Not a year. You thought I was going to say a year, didn't you?
Yes.
A month. 20,000 was like, one got to 60, and maybe her dad was a basketball coach at Tennessee. One got to 60, and that's what raised the red flag.
You know, process of elimination, it's not going to be hard to figure out who you're talking about.
No, and maybe we have mentioned him on this show today, possibly. Maybe painted his chest.
Well,
all right. So that's.
Let's not forget it. He still managed to drive the company $4 billion into debt while running that scam.